Baby Lamb's case is closed until she's able to articulate what happened to her. And instead of her grandmother viewing this as a wound unhealed in the family, she sees it as a victory for Daystar. Something's really wrong, and we're going to talk about it today. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on the Unction, where we give the Word of God and depend on the Spirit of God to edify the people of God. We just want to give an update to everyone. Some of you might have heard already that the Colleyville Police Department had to close out the case until new information is presented. And as we all know, this young lady was so young that it is very hard for her to really even articulate what happened to her. And I'm going to explain my personal experience with that as a survivor of SA myself, because what happened to me happened at 4 years old. And I'm going to get into that and kind of give some light to how we have to process these things. But I want to say to you that we have some information that we're going to share. And I am glad that we have discussed things before it happened so that no one can say, oh, now we have to adjust. There were things that we discussed before it even got here because we know how these things go. I'm going to show you a post that I did back in April. This was April 21st. I said, y'all ready to see if the court system is really a justice system? They better let that boy face the music or they're going to give the game away. Now, this particular post, I was dealing with Faith Life Church and the Cassis, and it was me giving commentary that there is a difference between, and I'm going to say it like this, the legal system and a justice system. A lot of people think we're dealing with a justice system, but what we're dealing with is a legal system, brothers and sisters. I'm going to give you one of the biggest examples of this in the country. I don't know if y'all can remember this, but there was a phrase that was said way back, and if I say it, it'll click in your head. Here's the phrase: if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Some of y'all remember this because this was one of the times in Americans' consciousness that they had to come to terms with the difference between a legal system and a justice system. And this was none other than the infamous words of that man in the light blue suit, Johnny Cochran. This man, he not only defended that murderer, O.J. Simpson, he was not only defending his client. If you listen to Johnny Cochran and some of the other conversations he had, in his cynicism, this man wanted to show that he could impose his will on the legal system so that he could show that your so-called justice system is merely a contest of who have better mastery of law. This is a legal system. Hopefully you will get some justice out of it. This is a legal system. Hopefully you will get some justice out of it. And justice is still coming, but we got to deal with the legal system. And I'm glad that we were already able to articulate this. Nothing is catching us by surprise. Let's go to the scriptures. We should never be surprised about things. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 8. If thou seest the oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not. Don't be surprised. Marvel not at the matter. For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. Other words, there's always somebody in the up and up and up and up. But we got to realize there's someone above it all. There's someone above all this. There's someone who would give real justice. And these are things that we kind of knew we would have to go through. But I want to tell you right now, if our dependence was about legalities, we wouldn't have the confidence we have. Our our hope is in the justice of God. We know who God is, and He don't miss, and He don't fail. And I'm grateful to God that we're able to see and discern and know the difference between these things because, uh, as we know, Daystar is going to use this little fact as something to just drum up as if something miraculous has happened. Here's Shane Winnings. He saw this coming. Go ahead, brother Shane. Tell the people you saw this coming. We knew what was going to happen here.
If I were a gambling man, I would just bet that they are going to try to use this new update to say that, they're innocent and all these other things. So we'll see, but I'm breaking it here first. The update is that the case has been temporarily closed. Now, why is the case closed? For the same exact reason as we explained months ago. Until the child can identify the suspect, the case is at a standstill. And so the department and the county and the courts, they're not going to leave the case open.
That's it. That's just a simple fact of it. And we saw this coming, but the fact of the matter is these people took this small fact and using it as if some great victory has happened. Nothing's happened. There's a gaping wound that has not closed because we're not able to get all the facts out. Because when the forensic investigator, Debbie Linhart, tried to get Pete to answer questions, his counterpart kept jumping in to stop everything. So we couldn't get all that we needed to get in that forensic investigation. So these things were used, this new update is used as if there's some great victory that went on. But I'm going to show you how a grandmother is so concerned about Daystar that she can't even understand the fact that there's still a wound in your family, lady. Look at this lady, just word about Daystar. No evidence has ever existed implicating Pete in any crime, and no charges are being brought against Pete. The absence of any evidence of any wrongdoing by Pete is underscored with the closing of this investigation, which further concerns there was never any mishandling, as falsely argued by some on social media, on the part of the Daystar and its leadership. No, there's incomplete information because of the lack of willingness to go through with all the investigation as needed. And we take these little legalities and hype them up as if you have some kind of clearing of your name. No, we have a case that is on pause until the young lady is able to articulate. Until the young lady is able to articulate what has happened in her life. Now, I want to say this personally. When I was 4 years old, there was a lot of things that I really did not want to think about as I was growing up. What happened to me at 4 years old, that the essay that occurred by a friend of the family when I was 4 in the middle of the night, I didn't want to think about that for a long part of my life. I went on, that was something crazy and bad that happened one time, and I'm okay, and I'm moving forward. It was a teenage boy who had done something to me. So you in your development, you don't want to think about was there something wrong with me? Is there something different about who I am? That was another boy like I'm a boy. Is there something wrong with me there? Am I different? Why is it that my first experience of this kind was a male? That these things you don't want to process. As a child, something happened, you're moving on. You're not processing these thoughts. You're living your life. You want to be a good boy. You want to be a good son. You want to go on with your life. You're not thinking. But deep down, you're fighting different things in your life, and you don't even understand why you're fighting it. But you got to go all the way back to the root. What I'm saying right now might help somebody struggling with their identity. Somebody who think they something they not. you got to go all the way back to the root. Okay. And that's one thing that I had to do. I wasn't fighting with whether or not I like females. I always knew I liked females, but why can't I give up all these skin flicks? In other words, these women with no clothes on and doing what they do. Why I can't give this stuff up? Why is it that women are objects to me? Why is it that I can't control this area of my life? Why is it that I'm married now and I'm still fighting these things from my teenage years, from my childhood? Why is it that I'm going through this? And then here it is, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I finally had a conversation with my wife. I mean, all this time has passed. My parents didn't have any inkling of me struggling. My family didn't have any inkling of me struggling. Here it is, a few years ago with my wife, I have a conversation where I explicitly say out of my mouth, and this is before Daystar. This is before Daystar. I didn't know that I would be speaking about this, so I didn't set this up. But it just so happens 3 or 4 years ago, I explicitly said out of my mouth to my wife, you know what? This happened to me when I was a boy. And you know, this is a real messed up thought that the first time I've experienced any kind of activity of such, it was with another male. That really hurt me. That really scarred me. It was something subconscious that I pressed down and did not want to articulate and did not want to think about. But it came up. And unfortunately, I didn't have therapy. I didn't have anyone to understand. All I had was Pentecostal holiness people spitting on me and screaming, devils come out, demon. You got a lust demon. You got a foolish demon. You got a disobedient demon. You got a rebellious demon. You got this demon. You got that demon. But no one to say, no, what's wrong with this boy? Why he act like this? Why is he so different? Why does he lash out from time to time? Why is it that he'll walk out of church service, go in the back of the building, and literally climb up on the roof of the church? I did this, y'all. Climb up on the roof of the church so that nobody can see me, until my cousin came around the back and saw me climbing up, and he left me alone. But by the time I came back to the edge of the roof, half of the church was standing outside looking up at me on the roof because I was trying to get away from these people. No one was asking why Ray was acting this way, but I had to go back to the root, and it took years to do. So if anybody understand baby lamb, I understand. I get why it's hard to articulate, because as a child, it is out of mind. You're not saying to yourself as a child, yeah, I'm playing in school, but what happened to me? Yeah, I'm eating ice cream, but what happened to me? Yeah, I'm going to the school play, but what happened to me? You're not doing that for the most part. There are some of us who put it out of our mind as something weird and silly or weird and wrong that happened one time. And we go on about our life, and we're living until it get to a point where we have to deal with something. There's some root that we got to deal with. And that's what we got to pray about. And I pray that the Lord will help baby lamb to articulate the things that happen in our life. I pray that the Lord would give her the words, that the Lord would give her the wisdom, and the Lord would give her the healing to be able to talk about these things and yet still feel free. Okay? So if you've never gone through that, then you don't know what we're speaking of. If you know, and there are some people who are empathetic with us, and I appreciate that they're empathetic to what we're feeling, and thank you for that. But there are some people who look on and say, oh, well, why this and why that? Well, some of you just need to go pray and ask God for a little bit more information. The reason why I'm able to speak about these things is because I lived through them, and I have experienced a lot of what we're going through in this case. And that's why my heart goes out to their family. my heart goes out to them. That's why I'm able to say what I say and look at it from a different viewpoint. And that's why I'm not shaken by none of this. Once again, when you see the violent in the yellow, the violent perverting of justice and judgment, marvel not. Don't be surprised. There's a difference between a justice system and a legal system. What we have, brothers and sisters, is a legal system, and we have to deal with the legalities. That's all it is to it. And in our legal system, maybe you'll get some justice. Once again, we all sat there and knew what O.J. Simpson did. We looking at that. I don't care who you are. You knew what that man was doing. You knew that you had to be blind, deaf, and dumb. But at the same time, Joni Cochran imposed his will upon a legal system and showed that our so-called justice is merely a contest of who has better mastery of law. And I'm going to show you that what we are dealing with right now could be an imposing of will against a justice system, a legal system, rather. I want to show you that we might be dealing with that. And I'm going to play this video to kind of let you see why I say what I say.
Jonathan and Susie phoned me this morning, and we spoke about what was happening with the police today and sort of how, you know, they're getting a lot of pressure from the Joni, who has, of course, such a problem because her son-in-law, her son-in-law, the one who couldn't seem to keep the oxygen, you know, seemed like the oxygen was literally stolen from the air when he watched Marcus. Fascinating. But Joni's son-in-law, as he is daily hosting shows, they of course want his name cleared.
Yes. Once again, it was said that they are feeling pressure from the Joni, and that, of course, this man is presenting on their show, so they want his name cleared. All right? So what we're seeing here is a people that's trying to impose their will on a legal system. Let me read this because I got a clip from the Rohr's report. Julie Rohr said, Jonathan and Susie added that Garcia, the detective, said he was getting a lot of pressure from the higher-ups to close the case and call Daystar's attorneys. It will be interesting to see how Daystar reports this development. We will be staying on top of the story, so stay tuned. So that was before Daystar gave their statement that I just read. These pressures from the higher ups in order to close a case is the imposing of one's will on this legal system. And it's really not shocking. I've gotten to a point in my life that when I see the rich and powerful actually get arrested, that's what shocked me. That's why I'd be like, oh, wow, they did it. Oh, wow, they got him. When I see the rich and powerful just kind of keep on going, that's the normal. That's the status quo. You know, so we're in a place now, saints of God, what we need in the church is discernment. What we need in the church is truth in the inward man. What we need in the church today is people who are in tune with God and know that it is time for this mess to come to an end. It seemed like all of these people, look at Michael Brown, look at this Daystar situation, look at Art Lucier, look at all these different leaders around who feel like, oh, we're getting away. What I believe, this is something I feel in my heart and in my spirit. I feel that the Lord is charging the church to come on and stand for the truth. When you see these leaders, they have done these horrific things around the kingdom. and there hasn't been nothing done to them, we want to run to the police, we want to run to the lawyers, we want to run to the courts. But at the end of the day, we have a great judge. We have a great God in heaven. And I believe the Lord is charging the church to stand on the truth. I believe this is one way the Lord is telling the church, y'all have ignored a lot of the truth that was in y'all face for many years. These liars, these swindlers, these prosperity preachers, these pulpit pimps, these people who have manipulated the elderly and the poor for decades, and we have ignored it. We have ignored it for a cheap prophecy, a cheap word, a partial healing, a partial feeling, just a false hope. And we have ignored the truth for decades. And this is, I believe, this is God's way of saying, no, church, you're going to stand for the truth. You're going to stand for righteousness. You're going to stand for what's right. You're going to have to use discernment. You're going to have to stand up for the word of God. I believe that the Lord is forcing the church to be responsible for the church. I know that the Lord is going to stand up strong in this situation. I know that the truth is going to continue to shine just the same way that we looked at O.J. Simpson, knew he was guilty, and saw that man go home. That's the same thing that we are seeing in a lot of these ministries, because it's not for the courts to determine what happened to God's church. We have a higher court that we appeal to, and we've always had hope in. Once again, even me, there's some little legal procedures going on with the NRB and things like that, but my hope is in the Lord, because I understand that God's people appeal to a higher court. Let me help you to understand something. 2 Corinthians 10:4 says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They're not earthly, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. That's what's going to happen to Daystar. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience, including child essay, all disobedience, when your obedience is fulfilled. Let me help you to understand something. God got power. And just because you can impose your will on the legal system, there is justice that's coming from the Lord. There is justice that's coming from the Lord. For the Bible says in Galatians chapter 6 and 7, be not deceived, Daystar, Joni, Lamb, Pete, and everybody else. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. God is not mocked. God sees you. God knows. People around them know. They have tried to escape. They've tried to get away. I feel sorry for someone on here that was talking about that grandmother who took the son's side and called the grandchild all kinds of I hope I don't get flagged for this, but they called her all kinds of whore and this, that, and the other. And the mother took the son's side instead of standing up for their grandchild. This happens around the nation. But I want you to know that God sees. He knows, and God got all power. And ain't nothing going to slip from God's hands. I'm going to show you other people around them know. They just lost their courage to stand up for what's right because they think these people are all powerful. But let me help you.
In this matter, however, there is simply no evidence that any alleged abuse was ever committed by Pete. What about J.W. and Rebecca? Joni Lamb? What about the letter written by J.W. and Rebecca? Do you know that the first people to suspect Pete was not Jonathan and Susie? It was J.W. and Rebecca. And to this day, as they have told the police, they will not have Rachel or Pete in their home. They will not have them fraternizing with their children, certainly not unsupervised at any given family event. Rebecca and JW knew something. They saw something. And in the early days, when they had the courage to stand, they stood.
I want you to understand, it's known. These wicked people know what's going on around them. The first ones to really see it was JW and Rebecca. It wasn't even Jonathan and Susie. See, these are the parts that people forget in the timeline because we've gone on. JW and Rebecca saw it, and they reported it. And they prayed. They said, Lord, we're praying that if something is weird with this Pete dude, please let it come out. Next thing you know, they had a trip, a family vacation, I think near the beach, a family vacation. Susie tells a child, here's the thing. JW and Rebecca says, Pete's a weirdo. Come on, y'all. Come on. Let's turn on our brains. Just like we did with OJ. We knew good and well what that thing was. We get this. Listen. There's something wrong with this man. Keep this man from your kids. JW and Rebecca says, I don't really want this man around my house. I don't want him around my kids to do weird. We don't know what that is. He got something kind of crazy going on. All right. Now, this accusation is against you already, Pete. You get to the beach trip. Susie says to the child, go upstairs and change in your swimwear. If you got something like that labeled on you, a regular brain say, nope, I'm sitting myself right here. Nope, you not about to accuse me of nothing crazy. No, you not. I'm right here. Hey, Susie. Hey, Susie. No, because when you clear something, no, you ain't about to put that on me. You ain't about to label me as that. No way, I'm right here. But this man's so sick and feel that Susie is such a non-factor in the family. Your voice is such a non-factor. This man says, oh, a little girl just went up the stairs to change. Let me go upstairs. Right there, that's stupid. Right there, that's crazy. You have this label on you of what you've been accused of. Your brain would tell any regular person, nah, you ain't about to put that on me. No, you're not. But no, you go up in the room with the changing child. And then Red Wig know where you were standing at magically. And Joni is in the basement, in the kitchen, and upstairs at the same time. And know where you was at and what you was doing. Saints, these people know this man wicked. They know exactly who he is and what he is, but it would be too detrimental to just admit the sin. It'd be too detrimental. That's why Joni has checked out to the point where she's talking about this, her son in love. I got this weird, strange picture from Instagram. I got this weird picture from Instagram. But anyway, unrelated picture. Anyway, I got this weird picture from Instagram, and Joni was talking about some son in love. This is the same son in love where when he was told to look over Marcus Lamb when he was struggling to breathe for life, for some reason, when this son in love was in the room, the air would get from Marcus. Marcus didn't have oxygen anymore every time the son in love was around, just for some mysterious reason. And I'm going to segue a little bit with that. Y'all need to understand. Y'all need to understand, when a woman has unforgiveness in her heart, you will be shocked how dubious she becomes. You'll be shocked how wicked she becomes. That somebody who supposedly is around when no oxygen can get to your husband is all of a sudden the favorite guy, is all of a sudden your favorite son. Okay? This is the interesting thing. This is interesting. You don't know how deep unforgiveness can go. I've seen it in my life. That's why none of this stuff, once again, second highlighted part, marvel not. It don't shock me. I've seen this. I've seen a woman with unforgiveness in her heart, went through 40-something years with her husband, in ministry, standing up in front of the church. Oh, I love my husband, my husband, my husband. The man got sick. She put him in a room for 3 years. He had 5, 6 strokes. Put the man in a room for 3 years and let him rot to his departure. I'm trying to say it so I can keep the video going. Let the man, they literally turned him over and looked at his body that rotted and decomposed. Let him rot to his departure. And that's why I'm not shocked when I see the man who just happens to take away the husband's oxygen just magically when he in the room. It don't shock me that becomes your favorite guy. That don't shock me. I have seen these patterns before. And the most offensive thing to someone with we call it Jezebel spirit. We understand Jezebel then. Someone with a Jezebelic type of mindset, the most offensive thing is righteousness. There is no offense in anything else you do. Pete is said to like boys. Pete is said to like kids. Pete is said to have taken away oxygen from a dying husband. There's the other daughter, Rebecca, lingerie parties. You got JW and Rachel with the lingerie parties. Rachel, not Rebecca. I did that last time. Rachel, that daughter with the lingerie parties up to $200,000. That's not an offense. JW and Rebecca, their silence seemingly it's kind of bought and mortgaged right now. And even being around just for the money is not a great offense to someone with a Jezebel spirit. That's not an offense. What's an offense to someone with a Jezebelic spirit is righteousness. You can do anything. You can do anything to the family, but don't tell me the right thing, because all I want is dominance. All I want is control. I want you to bow. That's why this woman, Joni and Jimmy Evans, kept saying the word submit, 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 submit. Why? Because that's all in their mind. After this case closed, until this child can articulate things, if this woman was concerned about righteousness, if this woman was concerned about peace, if this woman was concerned about reconciliation, she would have done like David did. See, people pretend that they are like David. Oh, I'm being attacked by Absalom. Oh, I have a child trying to overthrow me. No. David said, don't you touch my son. Don't you do my son harm. Joab, don't touch him. Joab, bring my son to me. Joab, keep my son alive. David didn't want harm to his son. If this woman was concerned about that, she would not do things intentionally to injure her son, saying little things to throw off on her son, doing little things. You don't do that. If you feel like you have this little thing you can trumpet on, then you know what you do? You say, you know what? It just is what it is. My family is going through trauma. I have a son, a daughter-in-law. I have grandchildren I'm not able to see. It just is what it is. It's closed for now in the law, but in our family, this is a gaping wound. It just is what it is. Well, what statement you want to make? For what? Well, what we going to say in the media? For what? Well, I want to tell them, we got the victory. For what? What victory? If you're concerned about righteousness, reconciliation, the restitution of your family, it ain't about all that. All it's about is, no, my family is fractured. I don't have no statement. What is it to you? It's closed. My grandchild still got some things going on. And until that's resolved, nothing's resolved. Until that's resolved, nothing's resolved. What y'all happy about? That's how we know you're not concerned with no righteousness. You're not concerned with no purity. You're not concerned with resolution. That's not what's on your heart. What's on your heart is you and Jimmy Evans. Submit, 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 bow. But I got news for you. There's a God in heaven. He sits high, he looks low, and he don't miss. And they said Marcus Rogers made a video. I tell you, this is one of the goofiest people I have ever seen in my life. How you gonna fight against the Christian Illuminati and then lift up the Christian Illuminati too? Who you think the Christian Illuminati is? Wouldn't it be the people playing with Paula White? Lord have mercy. Who do you think the Christian Illuminati is? Would it not be the gatekeepers who say who can speak and who cannot speak and who gets to go forth and who gets to stay behind? Would that not be the Christian Illuminati? The people that's going on television with the false prophets fleecing people for money? Would that not be the Christian Illuminati? You want to tear them down and build them up too. This people are strange out here. People are strange out here. But I tell you what, like I said, we're waiting on the Lord in this particular case. But one thing about Pastor Ray Curry Jr., before you all knew me and after you all move on, I said to the Lord that I'm fighting for baby lambs all over the nation. Jesus said, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my lambs. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. I'm fighting for the lambs that are all over the nation. I've been doing it for 2 years now, saying that this abuse in ministry needs to stop. The abuse in ministry needs to stop. I've been saying this for 2 years. And then when I came up to this was just another example of the type of abuse that need to stop. And even as we have to go forth and deal with other issues, I'm still going to be standing on the fact that this abuse in ministry needs to stop. And I don't care what's in the legal system. I care about the justice of God. And I want to let you know it is on the way. God is raising up a remnant. The Lord is raising up voices. The Lord is raising up strong ones who are able to look at these gatekeepers and say, you can't shut nothing God doing down. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. It's not worldly at all. Though we live in the flesh, we war not after the flesh. Wait till the saints really start to pray and cry out to God and realize that the Lord is our strength and our Redeemer. And like I said, it'll be something else if the rich are really held accountable in the legal system. Look up that Faith Life Church in this Cassie boy. I hope they get that one right. I hope they at least get that one right. Other words, y'all just go give the whole game away. We already know it's a game. This ain't no shocking to me. Marvel not. Marvel not. This ain't no shock to me. We already know it's a game. What we saying is, y'all better get that Cassie boy or y'all going to end up giving the whole game away. It's just going to be too obvious that the church is too far intertwined with the state. It'll just become too obvious that the church is intertwined with the state. So they better sacrifice somebody. That's how the Christian Illuminati do. They'll sacrifice one of them. But Daystar sitting at the top, so we can't sacrifice theirs. But Faith Life Church, we might sacrifice a Cassie. Which means y'all ought to get away from the Christian Illuminati too. Y'all need to stop that mess yourselves. Especially if they don't help you with your mess, even though he really need to go to jail. Don talking about my that video I used to have. Marcus, boy, it's crazy. It's crazy what people are lifting up and holding up to high heaven. Saints of God, we're just grateful for everyone who is a part of this, everyone who helps us to stand. We're not going to give up. We're not going to give in. I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time. I want to make sure I put this up. If you would like to give to be a blessing to dear brother Jonathan and sister Susie, that is a way for you to do that. I'm going to put that information in the comments. Also, if you would like to be a blessing to the Unction, you can do so by PayPal or Zelle, unctionworship@gmail.com. I'm going to put that information in the description also so that you can be a blessing. If you want to write in or give in, you can do so at 7561 Orr Rd Suite B, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28213. We're going to put all that in the description because we are not going to give up. We're going to support those who are fighting. I pray that the Lord would touch your heart, that he would give bread to eat, a seed to a sower, and multiply your seed sown. I don't believe in prosperity gospel, but I do believe in a God who answers prayer. So I just thank God for everybody, and I'm going to make sure all that's in the description. Once again, we live in the flesh, but we war not after the flesh. That's not where our warfare is. We're not impressed by any of this stuff. Y'all wicked. Daystar is a wicked place. TBN is a wicked place. These teachers of prosperity gospel and robbing the poor and Benny Hinn, give me $1,000. God can't trust you with the wealth of the wicked and all there's going to be a great wealth transfer and all this kind of stuff. Let me tell you something. You obey God, you'll get what God has for you. That's all. You don't have to manipulate God. You can't manipulate him with $1,000. No, you can't. You can't change his will with $1,000. No. If you give, what you can do is enact what he was going to do anyway. I mean, Lord have mercy. I'm not saying that prayer and giving don't have an effect in the kingdom. What I am saying is you can't manipulate God like these prosperity preachers telling you. No. So I thank God for those of us who are holding on and standing strong, those who are part of this great work. We appreciate you. Those who support this ministry, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. This is the Unction, where we get the word of God and depend on the Spirit of God to edify the people of God. And we're going to fight on, Christians. Fight on.